for being here and for flying.
Thank you, Marisa. Thank you for inviting me.
So they're both, collaborating artists, and I think it's very interesting the crossover between art, science, and technology. So,
yeah, agreed.
So Guillermo Bezosi, an architect, creator, and plastics investigator.
Yeah.
Artist from Argentina. He is doing interventions and participating through different territories, representing Argentina in different biennials, in different exhibitions, biennials in Paraguay, in Chile, projects of environmental projects in Taiwan, Venice biennials, art prizes in Italy, awards, like a lot. It's very long. Both of them, they have a very, very long history in what they're doing. And they probably started a collaboration a few years ago.
Yes.
Yes, in 2019 we started to talk. The collaboration project started then.
Yeah, during COVID.
Yeah, during COVID, yeah. It was the connection through Zoom meeting.
Zoom meeting, yeah.
And then last year, okay, closer. Yeah, sorry. Last year I spent 21 days at Pasadena, JPL.
Yep.
We were like researching and analyzing and going deep in the numbers and you can talk about that.
Yeah, just looking at NASA observations, models, trying to get Guillermo to look at it in a quantitative way, so that his art can be reflective of the real science.
Well, and maybe, Eric, you can talk to us about the rise of the sea level. Probably is what people really want to hear,
Yeah.
and we can start to talk about the art project later.
Sounds good. Yeah, that was the presentation. Is going to be on some of the NASA science about observations of sea level rise, and then what we do for projecting them, and some understanding of how sea level rises in the world, which is not flat anywhere. It's really bumpy, so I'm going to try and convey some ideas, and then Guillermo will show some of the artwork that he did using some of these observations at NASA. I work at JPL in California, so I'll go through some slides. Should I start the slides?
Yeah, of course.
So looking at some of the sea level science at NASA, and JPL is one of the labs at NASA that is on the California, close to Pasadena. We are looking at a lot of the observations that NASA has been collecting for the last, well, now it's more than 22 years. And what you're looking at here is basically how the ocean is shaped over 22 years. If you were to look at 22 years ago and now, this is the difference. And so you look at this shape of the ocean, it's not flat at all. It's just really bumpy. You can see some of the motion in there that is due to the ocean warming, and very kind of a lot of vortices, a lot of different currents. You see the Gulf Stream there. If you're familiar with El Nino, La Nina, you see a lot of different things across the ocean. So it's good to measure this, because from when we started measuring this, we thought nothing was going to show up. It's going to be flat, super flat. It wasn't flat at all. So when you look at the sea level trend, this is the global mean sea level, we call that. If you were to average all the observations we did from the previous slide, average them and just plot that. How much is sea level rising? Rising at, right now, 4 millimeter per year. So it used to rise at 3 millimeter per year. In 10 years from now, it'll be rising at 5 millimeter per year. So to give you a scale here, over 100 years, if you're rising at 5 millimeter per year, you're looking at kind of 2 3/4 feet. I mean, 2 feet, a little bit less than 2 feet. So that's quite a significant amount. And when you look at the sea level here, there's a lot of noise, right? But it's just lined up on this line fairly well. And so you have a fairly good, consistent data set here telling you that this is what we're observing, and there is variations around it, but we're always going into that trend upwards, which is kind of bad news. When you look at the trend, where does this water come from, right? We're looking at the oceans and we see all these bumps going up and up and up at a rate that is fairly big. This water comes from the ice that that is melting in Greenland. So here you're looking at an observation from the NASA satellite called GRACE, and it's measuring the mass of Greenland. So another observation giving us a totally independent record of mass loss in Greenland, and it's, once again, on the way down. We're losing mass in Greenland. Gaining mass in the ocean, losing mass in Greenland. You look at Greenland, it's the same on the other side, Antarctica. Same kind of measurements using the gray satellite. We're losing mass every month. There's variations, of course, because of the seasons. In summer, you melt. In winter, you accumulate snow. So you got bumps. But overall, the trend is really losing mass. And so the ocean and the ice is responsible for about half the sea level in the ocean. The other half is due to the heating of the ocean. So if you heat, it's when like you're boiling your water, after a while you see all these bubbles at the top. It's just expanding thermally. So half, that's kind of what you can remember. The ice, Greenland, Antarctica, glaciers, is responsible for half the sea level. The other half comes from heating, so the temperature increase in the Earth. So that's really quite important because the ice is a major component, and so we need to understand how the ice is melting. That's why we're measuring it. And when you look at the ice, well, it's not static. Here's an Antarctica map, and we have what we call rivers of ice streams. And they're flowing from everywhere inland, putting ice that's deep inland to the coastline, and then you get icebergs at the coastline, and all these icebergs result in sea level increase. But see how deep those ice streams go inland. And so you really have to look at this as a very dynamic system. Here are the glaciers around the world. Wherever you have big giant red dots, this is all the glaciers that are contributing sea level in the world. And when you look at that, you realize that Alaska, Canadian Arctic, Himalaya, Patagonia are really pushing a lot of sea level, a lot of ice into the ocean and resulting in sea level. So that's another component we have to observe. And so how do you understand all of this? You have melting ice, right? Here is this ice melting, and basically it's like a bathtub, right? You're putting the water in the bathtub, except it's ice cubes, and then it results as soon as those ice cubes, icebergs, melt, well, you get real sea level. But is that really what happens? Actually, when the ice melts, it is so big that when it melts, the gravity field shrinks close to the ice, which means the water goes away from the ice, and you end up with a bulge above what the bathtub would have given you, far from the ice. So if there's one message that I would like you to understand today, is that the further away you are from the ice that melts, the worse it gets. It is completely counterintuitive. You want to be close to the ice when sea level rises. So it gets even worse because you have the rebound of the Earth. Because the ice gets thinner, the bedrock goes up, the ocean goes down. So you get an additional problem there. And the last one is the rotation of the Earth. We're spinning, right? And because we're spinning, the water is slushing around. It's not flat at all. So let's see, for example, here, sea level in Iceland. You're looking at Greenland, it's just going to result, it's so close to the ice, Iceland, or London, that, this is Paris, that it actually results in sea level decrease from Greenland. It's too close. But Antarctica gives you sea level increase. But every city is different. If you're close to Australia, sea level from Antarctica is not going to really touch you too much, but it's going to dump water on the other side, as I said. So Antarctica will make sea level increase in Europe, in North America. Greenland will make sea level increase in South America. So it's a complex problem, and we have been able to map every area for every city, where is it going to touch you. And so this is really an interesting thing. If you look at North America, and you take all the coastline from New York all the way to Seattle, and you look at what Greenland contributes to sea level, you'll see that whatever is blue is actually contributing negatively. So let me spell this out. In New York, Greenland, southwest Greenland results in sea level decrease in Greenland. The rest in sea level increase. But if you're in LA, because you're far from the ice, gets worse. Everything that melts in Greenland results in sea level increase in Los Angeles. So it really depends on where you are sitting. So there's places in the world where there's going to be a lot less sea level rise than places, for example, like Hawaii, that are super far from every ice location, where the sea level will be a lot more important. So that is something that we really look at, and that's where this map is where Guillermo picked up that map, started doing some computations, and so then you start doing some art out of it.
Okay.
It probably will be very interesting to see how really a science and an artist can put their heads together to collaborate and work, and what is the result that you both want.
Yeah, okay.
Yep.
I can. Okay, thank you for being here. And this is the project that allow us to be working together with Eric. And the project has been presented in a pier over the sea in Antofagasta, in Chile. I've been selected for that international open call. Between 2,000 artists, we were only 7 exhibiting there. And the name of the project is Topography of an Uncertain Future. And I was using alone this software that Eric explained now, which was really complicated. And after analyzing and reading a lot, I arrived to the idea to create this topography of the ocean floating over the pier in relation to the real ocean, like the sea level in 4,000 years ago. Trying to compare the present with that. So it was like a metaphor of the future of sea level in a certain place. And when I wrote Eric telling him that I would have been selected, that's how we met each other and we started to talk. So these were my sketches, and this was the one because I've been chosen. So I was like making my own projections. Now I can do better because I've been studying with Eric. And this was the project idea. After discussing with the curator, we moved the project from that place to another one, which was really better. And also these are more sketches I presented. I came from the drawing, that's why I draw. And you can see in the main entrance, the installation and the video art, which is made like with lines because that was one of my languages. And I create this, we can see the little mark here, sorry, which was floating over the ocean. You can perceive it from the street. We were walking like 300 meters away, and it was amazing because you can perceive this stain, little blue stain over the ocean, and it created really good connection to people because they were like arriving to the place and they didn't know about this, but when they start to talk with people and realize that was the future of sea level rise. We start to share the ideas, and that's how we start to work together because we want to share ideas and try to spread the voice to create a work. And here are more images. Sorry.
Guillermo,
Yes.
and what changed exactly, like your work as an artist in the moment that you start collaborating with Eric?
It was amazing because I started working along with climate change and the extinction of flora and fauna. And I never had the chance to be working together, side by side with a scientist. And the possibility to be talking and analyzing with the person who is creating those scientific information is really interesting because as we did last year, I was with 4 projects, and after the 20 days, we arrived to 24 projects. So it's like when you have access to the information, it's necessary. It's necessary to work together with different. Interdisciplinary. That's the word.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, and some of the science, as I was explaining, is not obvious, right? So when we started looking at the gravity field collapsing in Greenland and Antarctica, and the ocean going to Hawaii, even if you look at the data set, you have no idea why this is happening. And so being able to go through the physics, understanding the 2-3 different types of physics that are going on with sea level allowed Guillermo to pick up the data and make sense of it instead of kind of pulling data sets from different points, and then potentially we can make mistakes when we do that also long term.
And do you think through art it's more accessible to the general public, the data?
Oh yeah, I mean,
Definitely.
so NASA, for example, has a lot of outreach with the public and internships with submarine students, or we have a lot of expositions, but they're always scientifically oriented. And the messaging, someone like Guillermo just can message this so much easier, and you do that for a living, and you can put art behind it, which attracts people, and they're not repelled by the science and the technical details, which can be really hairy.
Well, and sometimes, through fear, sometimes it gets, and the art is generating and connecting more with the senses, and the possibilities are different. Do you want to talk that a little bit more?
Yeah, I think that there is something that also makes us feel comfortable working together is when you said to me that I was using the information which is not something easy to use, because what we are telling is not something comfortable for people, and I was using beauty to talk about something tragic. So the idea is to try to create aware, not to scare people. So if we try to create that link where we can meet together and start to talk about the data, and bring science to people, because it was not easy for me to analyze the information and the software, even if they are free access. You can access, analyze. You were answering my email because I couldn't use the software, but it's not the same. If I can be the tool to make this connection, is where everything started to work.
Yeah.
And what are the next steps between the collaboration?
Yeah.
If you want to mention, a little bit.
A little bit would be to kind of scale this up a little bit, scale the art to more locations, put it down at the street level where people really can relate to it, and inject the science at the local level. So
Yes.
can you do artwork locally that is informed by NASA observations and projections that actually represents exactly what's going on just there, so that the people who live there relate to this, bring them through the art, get them to the data, show them the data without being too scared, and make them understand what's different about their location, I think would be great. And do this in a scalable way in different locations.
Yeah, that's true. That's the idea. The idea is also update the data officially, automatically, so everyone can know what's happening, and also having it so close to them, not accessing to, especially to a site, if not this, to be more closer through an RPs and to be connected. Also relating people around the globe, the world, creating connections, sharing ideas, and also information.
Do you want to talk a little bit about the current piece that you have here at Diverse?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. As you can see in the main entrance, you can find an installation and a video art piece. The installation is easily the vestige of the sea level in a different moment. It's not precisely attached to this place. It's only to create the idea to be closer to a different sea level. And the most important piece is the video art. The video art is based in the search for images for glaciers in different years, from the 1800s to these days. And the idea was to melt the images, not the glaciers, if not trying to melt the images as something which is vanishing. Like, it's hard to us to forget about what's happening around us with a lot of information. So these images of ancient glaciers are melting because we are forgetting about everything. Like, memory can hold everything, so that's the idea, to invite people to think about that and try to convince them to think about what's happening and not to forget, because when we forget, we are gonna be like disappear.
Yeah. One thing that I love about Guillermo's art here is that it shows you that there is information, that there is content. The glaciers are structures. You can look at them. They're incredible geometries. Once they're melted, they're gone into the ocean. There is no coming back. That structure is gone. The information, you talk a lot about information, is gone. Meaning all this structure will be lost forever. Now we might recreate new glaciers, but we won't go back to the old ones. That information content, that past will be gone. And there's no trace of it because it will be erased into melted water in the ocean, which spreads everywhere. So that locality, that regional feeling like this is my glacier, it's going to be gone. And so that's kind of reflected in the science. You can't just go back. It's just...
I think it's kind of the mission of the artist, not always through history. Artists really recreate and keep things alive. So
Yeah, also it's because of what you said about I think that blew my mind. It was like, what's happening in Antarctica is going to affect what is far away from Antarctica. So if we start to understand that what we are doing close to us is going to affect our brothers, sisters, families in another country, is try to understand that we are all connected together. It's a new idea, it's a new concept that is appearing now, reappearing because it was before. And as we are collaborating together, we want to collaborate with more people trying to create links because we want to involve people, local communities, students, because what we are doing is to try to construct a possible better future, maybe try to, I don't know, to understand what is happening, to try to understand us.
Yeah.
well, I think art is about changes and involving social changes and creating consciousness.
Yeah.
So I think it is awareness of being one, and we are all one and part of a whole with our planet. I think that's very important. I think is the message behind. So there's anything else that you can say in terms of how do you really play this role, or is your first collaboration with an artist? Is something that you were planning before, that you dreamed about?
This was really organic. You called me and I was like, when I saw the blue sculpture he did, I was floored because I had never had anybody grab our predictions, our models, and integrate them into artworks. I thought was really fantastic. So from there, it grew organically, and I loved it. To me, the last thing I wanted to say is like this connectedness of different areas in the world, right? We're used to carbon emissions warming the earth, right? But we need to understand that when you do this, you are not impacting just the earth, but you might actually be impacting a specific city somewhere down, on the other side of the world. And so that's something that is really connecting us socially. And it's not because Antarctica is melting far, far away that you're not going to impact a city in the middle of like the Pacific Island. So this connectedness through the physics is fascinating because it reflects in terms of social connectedness too. And they're kind of one and the same at one point.
Yeah, I remember when we started working last year, I was like saying, hey Eric, I got this project. Okay, great. Hey Eric, I got this project. Okay, great. And when I appear with the main idea we have, it's like, okay, that was I was looking for, he said to me. So this idea is about that, is to connect people through art, through information, to create aware about the situation and how we can collaborate with this. So if we can finalize this project, which is really huge, it's global and huge and it's beautiful, it's going to be great because we can bring something to people to collaborate with the situation.